Hi everyone, this is Detroit Alley Cat. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here. If you've never been to my channel, I do true crime, I do unboxings, all kinds of weird stuff, witchcraft stuff. I'm pagan, so I throw that in there. But yeah, I'm Detroit Alley Cat, and you should stick around for the ride because today we're going to do my Spooky Saturday, which we investigate paranormal activity in haunted areas. And I'm so excited about this one. So yeah, okay everybody, let's get spooky. All right, so first off, I want to say I did watch the documentary on Netflix about the Cecil Hotel. And I was like so excited about it because I really wanted to hear the history of the Cecil Hotel, but it became some like long epic story about Elisa Lam. And I think that the story about Elisa Lam is definitely a story worth hearing, but I did not feel like the story was about the Cecil Hotel. There were so many facts that were left out, and just it left me a little thirsty for more knowledge. So I decided that I was going to tell you the history of the Cecil Hotel and why I'm so attracted to it, because I was very much so before all this crazy exposure happened to it. Maybe that's not true. So what happened is that there was a show, I'm sure you've all watched it, called American Horror Story. Great show. I love it. Some of the seasons are kind of weird, but one of my favorite seasons was Hotel with Lady Gaga. And believe it or not, she was actually an amazing actress in it. And the music, if you were like a punk goth kid in the 80s or 90s, like, oh my gosh, they played Bauhaus, people. It was pretty bad. Can't say that anymore because, you know, trying to get like monetized. But anyway, I digress. Let's go back. And so I watched this season and it was wonderful. I highly recommend it. But I was like, I wonder if they're basing this show off of something, because it feels like there would be a hotel that they would base this off of. And I also was really attracted to the show because I used to work in an old hotel downtown Detroit called the Leland. I did a story about the Leland way back when I first started YouTube, which really wasn't that long ago, but I feel like I would have done it better now because I'm a little more used to it, but who cares, because raw is good sometimes. So, long story short, I started investigating. I was like, what could this be about? And I ran across the Cecil Hotel, and it had all of these stories connected to it, like so many stories. There was actually another movie, and it was by Stephen King, I believe, don't quote me, and it was called 1403, and it was about a movie about a hotel. And fun fact is I learned in this movie that most hotels do not have a 13th floor. And that is something true, because the 13th floor is like, it's like a superstition thing. But anyway, in this movie 1403, it's about a hotel that like all these people die in it and they commit suicide, and one of the rooms is like super haunted. And once again, that hotel is based off the Cecil Hotel. So let me tell you a little bit about the Cecil Hotel, because I feel like you're like, come on girl, tell me the story. I'm going to. So let's talk about it. Cecil Hotel is located at 64 South Main Street. I'm not sure if it's in Los Angeles. I think it is Los Angeles. See, Los Angeles is broken up into these little cities in a city. It's kind of weird. Some states do this. We have this here in Michigan, but it's very close to something called Skid Row, and I'll get into that in a minute. But it opened in December 20th, 1924. It has 19 floors, 700 guest rooms, and 301 suites. Now, I believe that the 301 suites are included into the 700 guest rooms. In 2017, the Cecil Hotel closed. It was bought by some millionaire for $30 million. They're renovating it. They're going to do all kinds of crazy, awesome things with it, but they'll never be able to change what happened. So let's talk about what happened. First, let's get into like the beginning of the Cecil. So the architects of the Cecil were Leigh Lester Smith. The developer was Simon Barron Development Company. It was built by William Bank Han, Charles L. Dix, and Robert H. Shops. Now, something to note is that there was a rumor that H.H. Holmes actually had something to do with the design and the architect of the Cecil Hotel. I dug into it. It seemed like it was like an urban legend, but I did find a couple of places where he was connected to it. So is that the truth, or is that just a hearsay thing to add to it? I don't think the hotel needs any more like exciting things, so I don't know why anybody would lie about it, but yes, it is true. I have found some things that say H.H. Holmes was involved in the developing of the Cecil Hotel. I don't know if that's just an urban legend, like I said, or what, but I found it. So anyway, the cost of building the Cecil Hotel was $1.5 million. If you hear crunching in the background, that's because I have a puppy. I'm sure you guys saw the puppy. I apologize, but it's a puppy. Everyone loves puppies. And if you don't love puppies, something's wrong with you. So she's just gonna chew on, okay, guys? Anyway, so it cost $1.5 million. Now, you have to remember that that was in 1924. So $1.5 million in 1924, I don't know what the inflation would be, but I'm guessing it's going to be around $1 billion. That's just my uneducated guess. It had a opulent marble lobby, it had stained glass windows, it had alabaster statues throughout the hotel. The lobby is absolutely stunning. When they built the Cecil Hotel, it was supposed to be an upscale gentleman's traveling destination. There's railroad right down the street. It was supposed to be the place to go. And when you walk into the lobby, you definitely get that feel like, oh my God, it's so grand. Because through it all the crazy stuff that happened at the Cecil Hotel, the lobby was for the most part upkept, so it always looked very grand. Now, what happened to the upper levels is a completely different story, but the lobby always stayed the same. 5 years after opening the amazing Cecil Hotel, one of the craziest things in American history happened: the Great Depression, which I feel like we're going through something crazy right now too. Just side note. But the Great Depression hit, and it was really hard times for everybody, and nobody could afford to stay at a luxury hotel. So instead of the Cecil Hotel closing, they went with the times. They did what they had to survive, and they changed the price of renting the rooms. And the Cecil Hotel became kind of a dive. They had people that lived there that were permanent. They had people that bought on a weekly basis. A lot of you guys know when you go to a hotel and you can pay for a week, it's not always the best hotel. They had monthly, they had all these things. They were also subsidized by the government in case somebody was mentally ill and they did not have room. They would drop them off at the Cecil Hotel and pay for them to stay there. So the Cecil Hotel was a little bit crazy. Let's talk about Skid Row. Everybody has all these stories about why they call Skid Row Skid Row. I want to explain to you what Skid Row means. All right, so the term Skid Row came from the fact that right in that area, they were developing a railroad. And when you develop a railroad, you have those big, long pieces of wood. I forget what you call them. Railroad ties. They're not metal. They're big, long pieces of wood. And in order for them to go ahead and build this, they would push the wood along, and I believe they used grease on the ground, and that would help it push push the railroad ties to where it had to go. And because of this, and because of the area that was in, they began to call it Skid Row. So Skid Row really wasn't a derogatory term in the beginning, but because of the decline of the area that Skid Row was in, it became known as one of the worst parts of Los Angeles. I believe across the street from the Cecil Hotel at one time, there were 100,000 homeless people. And basically, this is really sad. Basically what the mayor and the governor and all these people did was they said, we're going to take all these homeless people and we're going to put them in this area, and they can put their tents up there. So any degenerates, people that they didn't want others to see because they wanted Los Angeles and California to be beautiful, they dropped them off in this area. So there's this huge tent area, and of course Cecil Hotel is across the street. That's not going to really do a lot for the Cecil Hotel, and I'm very surprised that it actually stayed open. So what's kind of interesting about the Cecil Hotel, I am unsure of who owned it the entire time. I think it went to a couple different owners, but I really admire everything they did to keep this place open. They really tried every trick in the book to keep the Cecil Hotel open. At one point, they had decided that because LA was changing and it was becoming more hip and popular, that they wanted to get some of these kids that are coming here because it was Los Angeles, and they had the whole nightlife and the fashion movement and Hollywood and all that. They wanted to get a piece of that action. So what they did is they took a part of the hotel and they made it called the Stay on Main. It was still the Cecil Hotel, but what they did is they took a couple different levels of the hotel and made it seem like it was a separate hotel. And it worked. A lot of people went there and they never even knew that they were part of the Cecil Hotel. Except for if you watched the Elisa Lam incident on Netflix and read about it, which we're really not going to hit too hard because I feel like they covered that really good. However, I would like to go through the suicides and the murders of this hotel because this is it's very interesting. All right, January 22nd, 1927. Percy Ormond Cook was 52 years old. He shot himself because he was getting into a fight with his wife and his child, and he could see no resolution. That was the first suicide in the Cecil Hotel, and not the last. November 1931, W.K. Norton, he was 46 years old. He took poison capsules checked in under the name James Willie. September 1932, 25-year-old Benjamin Dodick committed suicide, gunshot to his face. July 1934, 53-year-old Sergeant Louis D. Borden, he slit his throat. He was an Army medical sergeant. And his reasoning, because he left a note, was that he had poor health, so he needed to end it. And something interesting is that I noticed quite a bit of military that committed suicide in this building. I know that there's a base somewhere. I think there's more than one base in California. I think there's a huge base in California. I just can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But in March 1937, Grace E. Margot, she fell from the building. Her fall was broken by telephone wires. They don't know if she was pushed or she jumped. All they know is that she was surrounded by telephone wires, and that's how she went to the hospital, and she did not. January 1938, 35-year-old Ray Thompson, he was a Marine. He was found on the skylight of a neighboring building, which is really crazy. How did he make it that far? But they said that it was a definite suicide and he jumped. and he had actually been in the Cecil Hotel 2 weeks prior to jumping off the building. May 1939, 39-year-old Erwin Neblett. He was a Navy officer. He ingested poison. January 1945, 45-year-old Dorothy Singer. She ingested poison as well, and she was a teacher. September 1944. Now, this one really caught me off guard. Dorothy Jean Purcell. I hope I'm saying that right. Dorothy Jean Purcell, while her boyfriend, who was 20 years older than her, was sleeping, went into the bathroom. By the way, he did not know she was pregnant. She delivered a baby. How do you not know that your girlfriend is pregnant and she's 19? Delivered the baby. She took the baby and she flung it off out of the window. And now here's what's sad is that she was acquitted by reason of mental defect. That whole story was kind of sketchy. Just saying. 1945, 35-year-old Robert Smith, he jumped off the building. October 22nd, 1954, 55-year-old Helen Gurney fell. She jumped and landed on the marquee. February 11th, 1962, 50-year-old Julia Frances Moore, she jumped. Now, here's another crazy story. October 12th, 1962, Pauline Otto, 27 years old, decided to jump off the building. And as she jumped off the building, she happened to land on George Gianni. He was 65 years old. When she landed on top of him, he was killed instantly. Which, what are the odds? June 4th, 1964, a very famous person that lived in the building. She was very well known for feeding the pigeons in the area. Her name was Pigeon Goldie. She was 29 years old, and she was raped, beat to death, stabbed, and her room was like ransacked, and there was blood everywhere, and they never found out who killed her. December 20th, 1975, Allison Lowell, 23 years old. That's the name she registered under, but that is not who she is. She ended up jumping as well. Never found out who she really was. She just became one of the many people that died at the Cecil Hotel. September 1st, 1992. Approximately 20 or 30-year-old male found in the alley. It looked like he had fell from the building, so he could have jumped or he could have been pushed. They don't know. He was just laying there on the ground. February 19th, 2013, the ever famous Elisa Lam story. She was 21 years old. If you guys don't know about Elisa Lam, go ahead and Google it. It's one of the most controversial stories of all times of the Cecil Hotel. I truly, truly believe she was having a manic moment and got into the water tower and was unable to get out. It's very tragic. It's very sad. It's a story that a lot of people debate. So yes, Elisa Lam died at the Cecil Hotel. Definitely put the Cecil Hotel on the map for sure, if American Horror Story didn't. But Elisa Lam was not the last person that ended up dying at the Cecil Hotel. On June 13th, 2015, an unknown 28-year-old man, he might have jumped. And they say might because they don't know. He was on the ground. He fell off the building. We don't know if he got pushed. We don't know what happened to him. And these are just the suicides. I guess there have been stabbings, all kinds of murders, all kinds of crazy stuff. Now, that's not it for the Cecil Hotel. I like to label this the weirdness section because these next events are absolutely incredible. In 1947, there was a well-known And she wasn't well known because she was an actress. She was well known because of how she was found. In 1947, Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia, actually stayed at the Cecil Hotel, I believe, a couple days before they found her body in the park right down the street. There's a very good chance that Elizabeth Short had actually been murdered at the Cecil Hotel. Now, the Black Dahlia is like a huge murder case. It's known by, I would have to say, internationally. So it's an unsolved mystery and nobody really knows what happened. There's a lot of debates about what happened, but every single time they come up with evidence about what happened to her, the Cecil Hotel is involved. So I believe, just me personally, I believe she was probably taken from the Cecil Hotel. 1980s. Now, that's like such a cool period in time, but something that happened in that area at that time was the Night Stalker. And what's crazy is between the period of 1984 and 1985, Richard Ramirez, one of the most famous serial killers of all times, stayed at the Cecil Hotel. It was said by eyewitnesses that he would go outside, he would take his clothes, he would throw away his bloody clothes or whatever, put them in the dumpster, and walk on up to his room almost butt naked or butt naked, and nobody thought twice. And these are eyewitness accounts. So yeah, Richard Ramirez stayed at the Cecil Hotel, and he's a pretty nasty serial killer. You wouldn't want to run into him. Now, here's something really crazy. The chances of two serial killers being in the same place within the same 10 years is almost next to none. It's just not like, I don't know if you took statistics, but it's not very likely. However, at the Cecil Hotel, yes, we do. We have two serial killers that stayed there. In 1991, Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger, and I really hope I said that right, I'm guessing I'm not, stayed at the Cecil Hotel. He ended up killing 3 sex workers around that time, and what's really interesting is that he was working with the LAPD. He did ride-alongs. He was I think he was like a journalist, and he was writing about the crime in the area, and meanwhile he's killing women. And I did some reading about him, and he was known for taking women's bras. Now, he was extradited back to Austria, where I believe he killed somewhere between 11 to 13 women, and that's why he came here to America. And it's said that he specifically picked the Cecil Hotel because he knew Richard Ramirez actually stayed at that hotel. Now, if you ever get the chance to go to the Cecil Hotel and you want to stay in the room that Richard Ramirez stayed in, which I don't know, I wouldn't want to do it. I'd like to go see it, but I wouldn't want to stay in it. He stayed in room 314. 314. Just remember 314. Now, something that I also found really interesting about the Cecil Hotel is downtown LA, when you stay there, the cost of a hotel is like somewhere between $100 to $300. There are other hotels that are like even more crazy expensive, like $500. Like, the cost of living in Los Angeles is pretty extreme. So the cost to stay at the Cecil Hotel all the way up until it closed was $21 to $53 a night. Just think about that. A lot of the things that the Cecil Hotel was known in famous pop culture was in 1987, U2 played on the rooftop next to the Cecil Hotel, so not actually at the Cecil Hotel. American Horror Story Season 5 was based off the Cecil Hotel. And Blink 182 did a video right in front of the Cecil Hotel called The Rock Show. I don't listen to Blink 182, so I don't know what song that is. But yes, it happened in front of the Cecil Hotel. I could go ahead and tell you like all kinds of crazy stories about how the Cecil Hotel is haunted, but I've never been there, and I feel like the facts kind of speak for themselves. There's no way that that building doesn't have something going on with it. Like, there's no way. Like, even the biggest of skeptics probably walk in that building and get a chill. There's just too much history, too much going on there. It's probably one of the most haunted places in Los Angeles. I'd love to go there, but in 2017, it was actually closed. They're doing the remodeling, like I said. The timeline is it's supposed to open up in 2021. I can't wait to see what they do. The person that bought it said they're going to stick with the historical features that the hotel had, and they're not going to tear them down. They're going to just make them more beautiful. So I'm excited about that. But I just really wanted to go over some of the facts because, like, I mean, if you're like me, you're probably like, I want to know what happened in that hotel to make it so scary. And I looked at so many different like YouTube videos and no one was talking about all the crazy stuff. I mean, there was a couple, but they went on these like tirades about this and that, like the murder. Like, I want the facts, and I don't normally want the facts. Like, I love to like put on a tinfoil hat and go on a tangent like I'm about to do right now. But I just thought you should know all the facts because in this case, the facts kind of tell the story. That place is got something going on. And if I ever find out more, I will definitely do a part 2. Maybe one day I'll be able to go down there and vlog it. But yeah, that's what I got for you for this spooky Saturday. I hope you enjoyed it. It was my pleasure telling the story. If you did enjoy it, please leave a thumbs up. Please leave a comment. Think about subscribing. I really am trying to work on my subscribers and get this channel going. But we will see. As always, thank you again for being here. Stay spooky and stay safe. Bye.